Hey guys, I'm Lucas Almeter, and the research topic that I chose was screen time and sleep. For my research, I decided to ask the question, how does screen time impact sleep in both males and females of any age? The implementation of technology in our everyday lives is on the rise in the world that we live in today. Researchers have noticed that with this increase in usage of technology, there are some very noticeable sleep-related risks that come with extended amounts of screen exposure times. Two harmful effects that increased amounts of screen time have been shown to have on sleep are less sleep timing and less sleep efficiency. Insufficient sleep is categorized by the inability of a person to get enough sleep to support normal daily activities. If insufficient sleep continuously occurs, then a person is at an increased risk of developing both mental and physical illnesses. Lauren Hale and Stanford Guan systematically examined and reviewed 67 scholarly peer-reviewed research studies from 1999 to 2014 and concluded that an increase to screen time exposure can lead to a decrease in sleep outcomes. To better understand the harmful effects screen time has on sleep outcomes, researchers needed to look at the amount of sedentary time people have throughout their day. A cross-sectional study of 1,674 adult participants conducted by Valence et al. Set out to determine if increases in sedentary time in our day, when combined with increases in screen time, have a positive or negative effect on our sleep habits. The results showed that increases in sedentary time, when combined with various amounts of screen time, were not directly related to changes in sleep outcomes. The study also found that participants who had less than 2 hours of self-reported screen time exposure per day had significantly less trouble falling asleep and were able to sleep through the entirety of the night without waking. Smartphones are one of the leading causes of screen exposure in the world we live in today. Christensen et al. Set out to find the answer to the question, do different demographics when combined with smartphone exposure lead to different sleep outcomes? A 30-day cross-sectional analysis was conducted of 653 participants above the age of 18 to look at this association. After the conclusion of the 30th day, the results showed that the median screen exposure time was 1.28 hours per day. It was also seen that younger ages and self-reported African American ethnicities had the highest amount of screen time exposure throughout their day. A similar study conducted by Cespedes et al. Looked at the association between mental health, insufficient sleep, and television. A longitudinal study of 1,864 children in Project Viva was conducted to collect data every 6 months from ages 1 to 7 years. The conclusion was that children that had more TV viewing time were more likely to have insufficient sleep from infant to mid-childhood. Additionally, it was found that children from the racial and ethnic minorities also were more likely to have insufficient sleep when exposed to TV. In order to look at how screen time impacts sleep in both males and females of any age, I decided to conduct an online survey of fellow Facebook friends. The survey was completed using the Google Forms feature through google.com. I thought that an online survey would be the best way to collect my data because we are in an online class and are not required to meet on campus. Additionally, an online survey distributed through Facebook allowed me to be able to increase the number of participants in my study and create a more diverse answering pool. In total, the survey was 11 questions long and included both multiple choice and short answer questions. I distributed the final version of the survey on August 1st and concluded the survey on August 2nd. The results of the survey were analyzed using Microsoft Excel. I was able to make tables and graphs that allowed me to view the data that I collected and compare it to other forms of secondary research that have been done on this topic. All the results from my survey can be seen in the table provided. Some of the data that stood out the most and was quite shocking to find out were that all 22 of the participants that completed the survey were exposed to a screen just prior to going to bed. It was also very interesting to learn that 21 of them could shut these screens off before they went to sleep, but one participant reported that they needed to keep the TV on in order to actually fall asleep. It is also important to note that 5% of the participants got between 2 to 4 hours of sleep per night, 59% of the participants got between 5 to 7 hours of sleep per night, and 36% of the participants got above 8 hours of sleep per night. The results from the survey show that the average participant in this study was exposed to a screen anywhere between 5 to 7 hours per day and was under the age of 20 years old. Furthermore, the majority of this 5 to 7 hours per day were caused by smartphones and television exposure, which my data linked directly to decreases in sleep efficiency and sleep times. It was seen that 23% of the participants in the study had insufficient sleep tendencies. Of this 23%, I found that all of them were exposed to a screen just prior to going to sleep. The majority of them only got between 5 to 7 hours of sleep per night, which is on the lower end of my findings. Only 5% of the participants in this study needed to have a screen on in order to fall asleep. It was interesting to see that this 5% of participants were all female, had an above average screen time exposure of 7 to 10 hours per day, and had an average sleep time of greater than 8 hours per day, which is on the higher end of my findings. This means that 95% of the participants were able to fall asleep without the constant stimulation of a screen affecting them, even after being exposed to a screen just prior to going to sleep. Throughout the time that I spent conducting both primary and secondary research, it was clear that an increase in any form of screen time exposure will have a negative effect on the body and will lead to a decrease in both sleep efficiency and overall sleep times. My primary research was able to confirm the findings done by Christensen et al. And Cespedes et al., where it was seen that women in younger ages are at an increased risk for sleep-related problems due to an increase in screen exposure time. These two research articles also stated that ethnic minorities had an additional risk compared to others, but I was not able to confidently confirm this due to the fact that my sample population ended up being a 90% Caucasian majority. Lauren Hale and Stanford Guam were congruent with the findings of Valence et al., in that no matter the amount of sedentary time throughout the day, an increase in screen time will lead to a decrease in sleep outcomes. From the data that was collected, I was able to confirm part of this notion. I did not ask any questions about sedentary time in my survey, but I did confirm that an increase in screen time would lead to a decrease in sleep outcomes. Limitations that I found during my primary research were that my population sample was 90% Caucasian, so my results did not reflect a multi-ethnical population. My results were based on a self-reported standpoint and were not clinically tested. This could allow for some measurmental error and could lead to some false data. One last limitation that I found in the data that I collected was that I didn't take into account if people have to change their sleep schedule day by day in order to accommodate a school and work schedule. Something that future research could look at is if the content that is displayed on the screen has any additional impact on sleep outcomes. I was not able to find any articles that were linking these ideas together, and I think that it would shed some helpful information for people to use in their everyday lives. Listed here are the references that I used throughout the duration of this project, and listed here are the photo references that I used for this PowerPoint.